What would you do if a cop told you to follow them away from your car right now? One wrong step can turn a basic stop into a pressure game fast. And once you're out of position, it gets much easier for them to control you. Hit subscribe right now, because what I'm about to show you could save you from saying yes when you should have said nothing. Smash like too, because you need to remember this before a real stop, not during one. If you've ever felt your stomach drop when lights hit your mirror, this video is for you. You're about to learn the one question that forces the officer to make things clear, the one sentence that keeps you from volunteering your rights, and the biggest mistake drivers make when they leave their own car too fast. Most people have no idea that follow me is sometimes a tactic, not just an instruction. It can move you away from your dash cam, away from your passenger, away from your phone, and into a spot where you feel smaller and more pressured. Let me show you exactly how to tell the difference between a request and a real order, what to say if they want to separate you from your car, and how to stop a simple stop from turning into a fishing trip. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, and if you get this wrong, you can talk yourself into a search, a delay, or even an arrest. Here's why this matters so much for you. When an officer asks you to follow them, your brain hears authority, your body wants to obey fast, you don't want conflict. You don't want to look guilty, so you step where they point, answer what they ask, and hope the whole thing ends. But that hope is exactly where drivers get manipulated. Here's the reality. Once you leave your spot without knowing whether it was a request or a lawful command, you lose something important. You lose clarity. Now you don't know if you had a choice. You don't know if the stop is still about the traffic reason, and you don't know if the officer is about to ask questions that have nothing to do with why you were stopped. If you don't slow that moment down, your fear does the thinking for you, and fear is terrible at protecting your rights. The first thing you do is force the officer to label the move. If they say, "Come back here with me," or "Step over by my car," or "Walk with me to the shoulder," you do not guess. You do not fill in the blanks. You ask one short question. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, is that an order or is this voluntary?" Word for word. Keep your voice calm. Keep your hands visible. Then wait. That sentence matters because it splits the moment in two. If it's an order, now you know it. If it's voluntary, now you know that too. That means you stop the manipulation before it starts. A lot of traffic stop pressure works because you never make the officer say which kind of instruction they're giving you. It stays foggy. And when it stays foggy, you tend to give away more than you meant to. Bad way, most drivers say, "Okay, sure," and start walking wherever the officer points. Then they end up away from their car, away from their witness, and deeper into a conversation they didn't need to have. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, is that an order or is this voluntary?" Then the officer has to be clear and you stop guessing. Watch what happens when you ask that. If the officer says it's voluntary, you can politely stay where you are or ask to remain by your vehicle. If the officer says it's an order, you comply without acting confused or combative. Either way, you just took control of the frame. You made the moment clear. That alone changes the whole stop. This matters because not every instruction sounds like a command, even when it is one. And not every friendly request needs your automatic yes. Officers know tone matters. A calm voice can still carry pressure. A casual phrase can still move you into a weaker position. That's why your job is not to mind read. Your job is to ask. Pennsylvania v. Mims is the case you need to understand here. In plain English, the Supreme Court said that during a lawful traffic stop, an officer can order a driver out of the car. That means some movement commands are real commands, but that also means you should know whether you're dealing with a lawful order or a voluntary request. The case does not mean every casual "come over here" should be treated like you have no choice. It means clarity matters. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos and you see the same pattern again and again. The driver gets moved first. The questions get stronger second. The trouble starts third. That first move is not small. It sets up everything after it. So don't be rude. Don't be dramatic. Just ask the clean question. "Officer, is that an order or is this voluntary?" This is 100% legal. You are allowed to know whether you have a choice before you give one away. Think you could stay this calm during a real stop? Let me know in the comments, because the next move is where most drivers hand over way too much without even noticing. Now let's say the officer makes it clear it is an order. Maybe they want you out of the car, maybe they want you at the front bumper, maybe they want you by the patrol car. At that point, you comply with the movement, but you do not donate your rights. That is the key. You can obey the order and still protect yourself at the same time. Here's exactly what you say. "I will comply, but I do not consent to any searches or extra questioning." Memorize that line. That sentence works because it separates your body from your mouth. Your body complies, your mouth does not volunteer. You are showing the officer and any camera that you are not resisting. But you are also making it clear that moving you does not mean owning you. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it shows two things at once. You followed the lawful command, and you did not give permission for anything beyond that command. A lot of drivers mess this up because they think they have only two choices: fight or fold. That is not true. There is a third choice. Comply physically, protect yourself verbally. That third choice is where the smart move lives. Bad way, most drivers say, no problem, I've got nothing to hide, do whatever you need. Then the officer hears permission, hears fear, and often pushes into a frisk, a search request, or more probing questions. Good way, smart drivers say, I will comply, but I do not consent to any searches or extra questioning. Then the officer gets your compliance without getting your free consent. Arizona Johnson helps you here. In plain English, the Supreme Court said officers may pat someone down during a traffic stop only if they have reason to think that person is armed and dangerous. Not just because they moved you, not just because you look nervous, not just because you said no to a search. There has to be a safety reason. That means you should never confuse being moved with automatically losing every boundary. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it changes the energy of the stop. You are not escalating. You are not giving a speech. You are not quoting law school words on the roadside. You are simply drawing a clean line. Yes, I will comply. No, I am not consenting to extras. And watch what happens after you say it. The officer now knows you understand the difference between a command and consent. That makes it harder to trick you into handing over a bag, opening a door, emptying your pockets, or chatting your way into a problem. And if they search anyway, your refusal is on the record. You should also understand the hidden pressure of movement. When you follow an officer away from your car, you may leave behind your phone, your passenger, your camera angle, or your stuff. That can make you feel cut off. That feeling is exactly why your words matter more, not less. If you are going to move with your rights still attached, say the line once, then stay quiet. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when the officer wants to move you first and question you second. You are not trying to win an argument on the street. You are building a clean record and avoiding the trap of accidental consent. The third move matters when the traffic reason starts fading and the fishing trip begins. This is the moment where you've already followed the officer or stepped out, and now the questions keep coming. Where are you headed? Why were you in that area? Whose bag is that? Mind waiting here a little longer? This is where people crack because the stop feels endless and awkward. So you need a line that forces the stop back into focus. You look at the officer and say this: am I being detained or am I free to leave? Those exact words. Here's the trick. They don't want you knowing. A lot of the pressure comes from keeping you in a gray zone. Not arrested, not free, just stuck there, hoping being nice will end it faster. But if the traffic part is done, the law does not let officers stretch that stop forever just to go hunting. Your question forces them to either release you or own the fact that they are detaining you. Bad way. Most drivers say, I guess I'll just wait here, or sure, ask whatever you need. Then the stop drags on, more officers may show up, and the whole thing gets bigger. Good way. Smart drivers say, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Then the officer has to make the situation clear instead of keeping you in that fog. United States is the big case here. In plain English, the Supreme Court said police cannot make a traffic stop longer than needed for the traffic job unless they have a real extra reason. That means the stop is not supposed to become a free bonus investigation just because you look nervous or because the officer wants to keep chatting. If the warning is done, if the ticket is done, if your documents are back, then the clock matters. Listen closely because this is critical. This question is not magic. It does not mean you can just walk away mid-stop. It means you ask clearly, so the officer has to say whether you are being lawfully held or whether you can go. That is a huge difference. If they say you are free to leave, leave calmly. If they say you are detained, then any extra delay matters a lot more later. Here's the reality. Some of the worst outcomes in traffic stops do not happen in the first minute. They happen in the extra 5 minutes after the real reason for the stop should have been over. That is where dog sniffs happen. That is where just one more question happens. That is where consent gets worn out of tired drivers. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, and you do not need to sound angry to use it. In fact, calm works better. Calm sounds informed. Calm sounds careful. Calm makes it harder to paint you as a problem. That is why this line is so strong. Am I being detained or am I free to leave? It is simple. It is clean. And it stops the gray zone from swallowing you. If you've made it this far, you're serious about protecting yourself. Show me by hitting that like button, because the next tactic is the one that keeps your own words from being used against you after you've already been moved. The fourth move is about shutting your mouth before your nerves start talking for you. Once you've been moved, the officer may try to use the new setting to get more information. Maybe you're away from your passenger now. Maybe you're standing by the patrol car. Maybe it feels like you should explain yourself so they'll relax. That is the trap. Let me show you exactly what to say when the questions stop being about the traffic issue and start sounding like an interview. I choose to remain silent, and I want a lawyer if I'm being questioned. Say it once, then stop talking. That line matters because most people think silence only matters after handcuffs or after a Miranda warning. That is wrong. Berkhammer v. McCarty said normal roadside stops usually do not require Miranda warnings right away. In plain English, that means you can still talk yourself into trouble long before anyone reads you your rights. So if the stop is drifting and the officer wants more than traffic stuff, your silence becomes your shield. Bad way. Most drivers say, I'm not hiding anything, I just left my friend's house, and the bag is probably my cousin's. Then the officer hears extra details, possible gaps, and new reasons to keep digging. Good way. Smart drivers say, I choose to remain silent, and I want a lawyer if I'm being questioned. Then the driver stops feeding the stop with free information. You should notice something here. Every tactic in this video does the same basic job. It slows the moment down, it removes guessing, it blocks pressure, and it keeps you from making the officer's job easier than it already is. That is why these lines work so well together. One line tells you if the move is optional. One line protects you if it is not. One line forces the stop to end or be justified. And one line stops you from talking yourself deeper into the hole. This is 100% legal. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to refuse consent. You are allowed to stay silent. None of that is resisting. None of that is fighting. It is just you using your rights with a calm voice and a steady face. Now let's tie the law together so it stays simple in your head. Pennsylvania v. Mims means an officer can order you out of the car during a lawful stop, so you should not treat every movement order like a debate. Arizona v. Johnson means a frisk needs a real safety reason, not just your nervous face or your refusal to consent. Rodriguez v. United States means the stop cannot be stretched longer than needed for the traffic reason unless there is a real extra reason. Berkheimer v. McCarty means you should never assume your words are safe just because nobody said the Miranda warning yet. That is the whole map. Ask if it is an order or voluntary. Comply without consenting. Ask if you are detained or free to leave. Then stay silent if the stop turns into an interview. 4 cases, 4 simple moves, 1 clean plan. Now picture this real stop in your head. You get pulled over for speeding. The officer takes your license and comes back a minute later. Then he says, come walk back here with me. Wrong way first. You jump out fast and follow him without asking anything. He stands you near the patrol car and starts asking where you came from, why you were in that area, who else is in the car, and whether there is anything he should know about. You try to seem helpful. You talk too much. Then he asks if he can search. You say yes because you think saying no looks bad. Now your car is getting torn apart because you gave away every line that could have protected you. Now the right way? Same stop, same officer, same request. He says, come walk back here with me. You stay calm and ask, officer, is that an order or is this voluntary? He says it is an order. You answer, I will comply, but I do not consent to any searches or extra questioning. You move slowly and keep your hands visible. He starts asking questions that have nothing to do with speeding. You say, I choose to remain silent and I want a lawyer if I'm being questioned. Later, after the warning is done, he still wants you standing there. You ask, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Now the stop is back under a bright light. Either he lets you go or he has to clearly say he is holding you and why. That is a completely different stop. Same road, same officer, different outcome because you knew your lines before the pressure started. Next week, I'm revealing what to say when cops ask you to unlock your phone. Subscribe right now because that video could save your private life from being handed over in 10 seconds flat. So burn these into your memory. First, if they want you to move, ask whether it is an order or voluntary. Second, if it is an order, comply but do not consent to searches or extra questions. Third, if the stop keeps dragging, ask if you are being detained or free to leave. Fourth, if the questions turn into an interview, use your right to stay silent. You do not need to act tough. You do not need to sound smart. You just need to be clear before the pressure does the talking for you. Hit subscribe so you catch that phone search video next week. Smash like if this just changed how you'll handle your next stop, and drop a comment telling me which line you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there.